start in another 2 minutes.
Whoever is coming late can give a big clap.
Exactly. I'm just going to do that. Coffee machine breakdown, right? Because today it's all about being caffeinated as well. This week is all about staying ready, staying calm, and most importantly, like I said previously, it's about staying caffeinated. Now, before we dive into the action-packed session of resilience and readiness, we are kicking things off with something very special, the BCM signature wall. It's time to leave your mark, not just anywhere, as in not in your neighbor's attendance sheet, but on a pride BCM story wall, where every signature tells a tale of commitment, chaos averted, or a caffeine dependency, because I'm sure all of you love your coffee or tea. So, without further ado, I would like to call upon the dignitaries to step forward and please sign on the BCM wall. Ms. Shalini Rao, Mr. Anil Kumar, ma'am, please. Ms. Hashali, Mr. Jayant, Mr. Gopa Kumar, yeah, Mr. Rajiv, and Mr. Mahadev. And don't worry, rest of us, we are all also going to sign, and I have been doing it since 2 days now. Please keep them coming, it's early morning. Please keep the claps coming. Thank you. Please sit down. So, this year's theme is Redefining Resilience, Creating a Future-Proof Airport. Sounds scary, right? I know it sounds very sci-fi. Relax. We are not asking you to build a time machine. But if you have started, please share the details with us so that we all will sit in a OCC and discuss the RA. I hope everyone knows what is RA. It's risk assessment. So, what does resilience mean in 2025? It means being ready even when your GPS routes you straight into the Bermuda Triangle, right? It means bouncing forward. And how are we bouncing forward? Without a limb, right? It's about keeping cool even if the only thing still running is your mascara. I hope it's only few ladies so they all know. Now, I know what are you thinking. Do we really need a whole week for business continuity? Do we need it?
Yes.
And why? Think of it like a fire drill, but instead of screaming and running out of the fire, we are staying in. And how are we staying in? We are staying in with readiness, with resilience. And let's be honest. If at all, like I said previously, if at all zombies invade, our AOCC is ready with real-time data. And I think the call would be runway 27 left, clear to land, and the gate for zombies would be Victor 57. So buckle up, metaphorically, emotionally, and if your chair is spinning, maybe literally. It's going to be a wild ride, full of learning, laughter, and just a little bit of panic in the PowerPoint. Because here at KIAB, our backup plans too have backup plans. Our contingency plans have a better contingency plans. Also, probably a spreadsheet about it too. Now, behind every great event is someone running around with a to-do checklist. Am I right? I think ERCR team will answer this. 3 backup plans, a half-eaten sandwich, and a coffee that ran almost cold. Please put your hands together and maybe offer him a coffee later. He's worried about why am I not holding a mic. Don't worry, I have my backup plans ready. I now request Mr. Vinod to speak a few words.
Thank you. Thank you, Ankita. Thank you so much. A warm welcome to all of the dignitaries and everyone who's present here. Welcome to day 3 of Business Continuity Awareness Week. I think I'm going to keep it very simple. 4 basic aspects to cover here. First of all, I want to give you a background. Why Business Continuity Awareness Week? This is a global initiative by Business Continuity Institute. Just like we have the Chartered Accountancy Institute, the Engineering Institute, we too have a Business Continuity Institute which is headquartered in the UK, United Kingdom. So they conduct the Business Continuity Awareness Week every year. Okay? The objective is plain and simple: spread awareness about business continuity. What it also means is that you need to be prepared for any eventuality. But this year we've just gone one step ahead. We've been inclusive and engage our partners together. That's our whole intention. Last time we had it in WFS Schoolport, the day 2. Day 1 we had it in Express Cargo Terminal, Blue Dart, and so on and so forth. So we are trying to spread the awareness. It's just not for us. It's bringing the community together. That's our whole intention per se. And the theme that you can see here, basically I can break down into 3 components. One is sustainability. Everybody knows about sustainability. It's not a naive concept. Adaptability is the second one. So basically, if you look at COVID, a classic example of how we adapted to the whole scenario, right? It was not written in any rule book per se, what had to be done in case COVID hits. But we had to adapt. And we set up a war group, so on and so forth, and it was smooth in place. The third one is innovation. Innovation is nothing but, getting AI, artificial intelligence, to the whole crisis management, business continuity world. Road ahead would be very simple, that we have 2 more days to go. We have guest speakers coming in from the industry. Thank you, Harshali, for joining us. She's come all the way from Pune. She represents the Vodafone Group, by the way. So thank you so much. And Shalini ma'am, I think leadership blessings is very important. Anil ji, thank you so much. Without their contribution, I don't think business continuity would lead anywhere, right? That's more important. And also 2 important concepts is that we are unveiling the QRT jackets. QRT is quick response team jackets this time. So in case of any eventuality or a crisis per se, the team needs to come on ground and represent, so that all of us don't panic. Last but not the least, I urge you to sort of look forward to the sessions and capitalize. Maximum thing is to capitalize on these opportunities. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Ankita. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinod. I like the way how he is prepared, but sorry I couldn't do that because it's an impromptu hosting. All right, folks. Now, coming to the stage is someone who just doesn't handle turbulence. He leads through it. He's the man who keeps things grounded while helping everything take off. From baggage handling to business strategy, he's seen it all, managed it all, and probably made a plan B while I was still finishing my plan A. He's not just the CEO of Menzies. He's the CEO of keeping cool under pressure and a master of business as usual even when nothing is usual. Please give a warm and slightly dramatic round of applause for the one and only Mr. Anil Kumar, CEO of Menzies.
Thank you so much. I think it's too big an introduction. And I wasn't even watching.
With the cool, because that's the impression we get.
So thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for visiting us here. And I thank you, Payal, for this initiative, especially this speaker also. And we do have business continuity plans.
And our continuity plans are mostly on the risk assessment of what we do, like industrial promotion, and if there's a pandemic, and if there's an IT system failure.
But I look forward to see and what is in store for the next week with regard to redefining the resilience and also creating a future for import. So thank you all and have a good session, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, what's continuity without a little about brand continuity as well, right? Because while the rest of us are out here worrying about flood, outrage, and zombie attacks, someone here has been making sure that we still look fabulous while doing it. She's the creative force who can run a risk into a campaign and a crisis into a communication strategy. The reason our posters pop up, our messages land, and our events don't look like a boring boardroom meeting. No offense, but I'm certain that the boardroom meetings are boring. So please join me in welcoming the women who proves that resilience can also be stylish. Our very own Chief Marketing Officer, Ms. Shalini Rao.
Your introductions are more fun than anything else, actually. Okay. Everybody can hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah? Thank God. I don't have to pick up the mic. Okay. Before you go to the next slide, this works, right? So I'll manage that. Okay. The word storytelling, you might think think in your mind, what is storytelling according to you? Telling stories. What does it mean in your mind? No, you're giving me the correct answers. I want answers from the heart. If I just say storytelling, first, forget, huh? Emotion. And?
That's a skill actually, telling a story. Yeah.
Okay, I was hoping for somebody who says it means that you're telling stories and you're not telling the truth.
Exactly.
Is that there in anybody's mind? Yes or no? No? You don't want to say it. But sometimes that's the impression people have. That's why I want to put it on the table. That's not the kind of storytelling I'm talking about. I'm not talking about cover up. I'm not talking about making up things. I'm talking about delivering things in the right manner. And just to ask yourself, why does it matter? All of you know this, huh? Nothing that I'm going to say is going to come as a surprise, but maybe for this half an hour, it's a good time to think about it, to evaluate our own mechanisms and see, are we ready for this? Right? Because crisis can hit anytime. This is something we know. And a short story I will tell you later. So, couple of things here, right? What is a big thing in a crisis? Everything is uncertain. You don't know. You don't know at all what's going to go on. Facts are anybody's guess for some time. It's a guess, right? We've lived through stuff very recently, all of us. Nobody validates facts. People just, especially in today's day and age, with mobiles, with social media, with TV, with 100 people out there, who knows what the facts are? You need to have a shared purpose, finally, at the end of the day, because there's a group of people. It's never ever one set of people, right? God forbid something happens here, it's all of us. There's a bunch of us together that need to take care of all our reputations at the end of the day. And the biggest one, why is it important, is to ensure there's not chaos, but actually that there is confidence. Because nature of crisis is chaos, right? The minute there is a crisis, that means there's potential chaos. So the purpose of storytelling, the purpose of putting information together and facts together in a way that makes sense to everybody is to build confidence at the end of the day. And a very important one here, which is, you know the facts, right? You know the facts. Important to get ahead of the narrative, as we call it. Own it. The faster you get out there with what you have to say, you own what is being said. And that is the most important as the person or the organization or a group of people who are handling that crisis. That is the most critical part. And that is why we do call it storytelling, because it has to have a format. It has to have a certain structure to it. And in a crisis, the people who cannot afford to lose their calm or cool or anything at all are the people who are handling it. And so therefore having a storytelling mindset and that absolute cold focus on what needs to go out is important at that time. Okay? Here's where I tell you a story before I go into psychology of crisis response. I joined BIL in November of 2019. How many people will remember what happened 1.5 months later? Yeah. So my job description obviously had crisis management as part of it. Who takes it seriously beyond a point? When you're joining, you don't imagine something like COVID. There was no map for it, there was no guideline for it, there was no nothing. And I still remember, new job, new industry, I'm not from the aviation business, new role, marketing didn't exist in its form in BIL, and completely to deal with COVID. Right? So while we all had our response mechanisms, there's a lot of historical stuff that all of us have learned, which I think we need to rely on. And to me, that's what we relied on. And then, of course, there were structures that we put in place. Today, it's a lovely book and a case study that we've had the pleasure of putting together. But believe me, while we were going through it, I know, I kept saying 4 months into a job, and that's all it was. Literally, I had not met everybody. I didn't know a lot of people, but believe me, by the time we were done, I met everybody and everybody knew me. 3 things to remember. Why this is important. Think of a crisis. There is a psychology behind it. What happens automatically? Anybody tell me, if something happens to you, what's the first thing? Shock, panic, or you freeze, right? Don't know what to do. Or you go completely blank, you're in total panic, or you're freaking out, or you don't know what to do, right? So that's the first psychology that happens across the board, to remember that. Second, by nature, the next thing we want is control. Right? The minute everything is all over the place, as human beings we want control. We want some structure. We want to see a set of things around it. And the third, what telling a story or giving the facts or putting it together in the right place gives you that clarity. So if you remember these 3 things about the psychology of a crisis, that is why storytelling becomes extremely important, and having a structure to what you say becomes extremely important. And that cool that I called it, very, very important. Okay? 5 things, if you can remember, that are important about storytelling in a crisis. And I'll try and give some examples wherever I can, or please, if anybody has an example or wants to ask me something, please feel free. Well, I have Q&A at the end, but you can quickly interrupt me if there's anything. Big one, keep it simple. We all belong to industries which have their own jargon, which have their own bunch of things. But when you are putting a crisis message out to employees, to other people, to anybody, keep it so simple that a child can understand. Right? It has to be as simple as that, because remember, brains are short-circuiting at that time. So fight, flight, panic, brains are completely short-circuiting, assuming all kinds of things. No scope for misunderstanding and absolute simplicity. So the first thing is that, right? Clarity. Second one, empathy. And true empathy. Not empathy put on because you have to show empathy. You have to feel it. And it's okay to show your feelings, but it's not okay to show your panic and I'm hassled and I don't know what I'm doing. Remember something? When a crisis happens, and I'm sure all of you can pull out 100 examples, everybody's looking, everybody's watching. You can smell panic like this. You'll pick it up. In a word, in a sentence, in everything. And so therefore the people who go out there to talk, or the statements that we put out there, you can't afford panic. How should you speak? Should you smile? Should you not smile? Depending on the nature of the situation. 99% of the time you should not. How do you demonstrate confidence? How do you show that you care? And it's a simple rule. It's not, don't worry about the word empathy. It's a simple rule. If you care about what has happened, and if you feel it, you will demonstrate it. But that demonstration is very important. To acknowledge it, whatever it is, good, bad, ugly, has to be acknowledged. No two ways about it. Third one, truth, no cover up. Whether it's storytelling as I called it, but it is truth. Its response is first statement out in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? That's the measurement of time in which we look at. The first immediate whole 30 minutes. Then you've got an hour to put out the rest, where you get a little more time to think. But 30 minutes is all you have. So the more prepped you are, the better it is. Anything at this stage? Otherwise I keep going. Okay. Very simple, but I put it down. There are steps to follow in terms of putting a statement out, saying something. So I think most of us already have documents in place. Good practice to go back and keep checking, does it answer this? And I think to your point, a lot of the work may be in the nature of technical issues that go wrong or business that stops. But there could be 100 other things that happen, right? So even for that, to have some of these things in place in terms of what happened, facts. No perception, no nothing, only facts. What are we doing about it? Again, not 20 things, maybe 3 things. But 3 key things in terms of what is the action that we're taking around it. What does it mean for you? Most important. Right? Don't make it all about us and putting us out there. What is the implication for you? So for example, assuming there's been an accident on the road in front here and it's, let's say, impacted movement into the airport. Very potentially possible. Traffic gets impacted. When you're talking about what are we doing about it, you've got to say we've opened 3 alternate roads. What it means for you is maybe you need to come in half an hour early. So one of the practices that we follow very automatically, because when we think crisis, no, all of us think big things. Small things are also crisis. So for example, if another airport shuts down, right, or the whole system shut down that happened, I'm forgetting the name, what is it? Blue something, what is it? Microsoft. CrowdStrike. Your job is not just to manage people there. The first thing is to start putting out advisories, because you have to tell people who are about to come what to expect. Because remember, panic is large scale. So you have to start anticipating all aspects, not just on the ground. Sometimes we are very quick on the ground, but we don't think of, this one's important. What comes next? What does it mean for you? What are you supposed to do? Right? These are, I think, standard methodologies as well, from a business continuity, from resilience, from crisis management. But it's also part of the narrative of how you put it down and how you should not forget it. And believe me, at that moment you can. In that speed, in that hurry, in that panic, you can. So a framework, I mean, these frameworks are useful. They are there with everybody. So check your own comms against them is what I would say. This one's important. Leadership tone and voice. In any crisis, we already know, hopefully, who is going to speak. And that, as an organization, needs to be adhered to 100%, because the person who's going to speak should have already been through multiple drills on how they should speak. She spoke of plan A, plan B, plan C. The person who's about to speak may not be available, may not be accessible at that point in time for whatever reason. What is plan B? What is plan C? Who is the next and who is the one after that? That is extremely critical to have in place as well. And all 3 need to be trained. It's not just one train, because it can happen. Again, I'm sorry, but I will keep referring back to very recent. Campbell was in the air. He was on a flight to Paris. Right? Took him 2 hours to turn around and come back. But he was on a flight to Paris. It can happen to any one of us that the spokesperson defined is not available at that time. So, BC, who's the person? And that person needs to be ready and should always be trained alongside. And most importantly, these 2. You have to be human at that time. There's no scope for trying to look good as a person or an organization. That empathy, that humanness, that vulnerability, but not fear. I'm clarifying the difference between vulnerability and fear. Sometimes when people, we've seen, I'll give you some references of crisis comms, or you go look at, famous crises that people have spoken about, the BP, various things, train accidents in the UK. Too soon is also a problem, because fear comes through. So the training of the leadership that's going to speak should have somebody at that point next to them who's helping them be calm. So that your fear, everybody will have fear. Okay, it's a lie if I say as human beings, we won't have fear, we won't be worried. There'll be, if Anil has to come up and speak, there'll be 10 things going on in the back of his head, what's going on, etc. Can he afford to show it? No. Right? But he also can't come across as mechanical. He has to come across as human, empathetic, etc. Okay? And vulnerability and resolve essentially means show that you're concerned, but also show confidence. Because what are you doing at that point in time? You just remember the psychology of a crisis at all given points in time. You have to instill confidence, because if you show like you're shaky, done. Story is done at that point in time. Some interesting just framing devices for your words, what to do, what you can use. Just two things, which is use words that will make people feel a little bit more comfortable or demonstrate the seriousness of an issue, which is why characters like me exist, who will help write the statement and put those words in place. Please remember, it's not manipulation, it is just acknowledgement of what are the words that are necessary to calm everybody down. Very, very important to do that. And also to help them understand that you understand the enormity of a situation. Right? On our advisories, I'm giving you the smallest of crises, we always say we appreciate your cooperation at this time. It's a small thing, but it's an acknowledgement of the fact that I know that I'm putting you in a little bit of discomfort. I'm not denying that. So I'm asking for your cooperation well in advance. So putting those kind of words into space. Big one. The last one. What will people remember when this is over? Right? Again, sounds manipulative, but the function I come from, this is literally my job, to do it all the time, to ensure that the takeaway is right. And as those who manage crisis, as those who will be in situations, you have to have head first. There is no place for anything else first. Heart has to be there. Feel it. But this has to be first, because you have to think about what are people going to do. So therefore, share if there are any particular personal moments or anything that the team is thinking about. Make it personal so that you don't come across as any cold. That's also very important. That empathy, relatability, that I can understand what you're saying. We all know what the platforms are, but don't forget these platforms. Sometimes we go external first, we forget internal. Remember, our employees are our biggest evangelists and are also the people who will be the most concerned and can send the wrong message out if you are not careful. In chatter. Because coffee table conversation, lunch conversation at home, all our families will be the first to ask us what is going on. So ensuring external and internal. We are very quick with external. I deliberately want to put this out because internal is equally critical. Because there's a bunch of people who will speak for us, who need to know what to say. By the way, not to speak for us, they need to know what to say and what not to say. So the sooner we capture both internal and external, put that messages to us, very critical. And speed, totally. If 30 minutes is statement out, it's probably I won't call it, what should I call your whole challenger exercise, I won't call it a rehearsal, but the entire preparation that we do, we have call trees that go both internal and external. And we check whether when we're doing an exercise, whether we've remembered to do internal and external. So my suggestion to everybody is check your own call trees, your own mechanisms to see have you covered both adequately. Like I said, we are faster to cover external. We forget internal, but our employees can create a lot of confusion if we are not careful and can also panic. Please remember that they're as unique. So you don't want wrong message. Doesn't end with the crisis. Yeah, it's not like done, dusted, over. Go back, post a crisis as well. One, to tell people what happened. It's always good to wrap up. So that's part of the storytelling. All of you watch movies?
Yeah.
There's wrap up, at the end. Somebody's walking away into the sunset or somebody's doing something. But there's wrap up at the end. People need to know what happened. Don't leave anybody hanging. internal, external, both. Also yourself, come back and learn. Come back and learn. Evaluate what we did. Did we do it right? Did we not? Don't just learn from yourself. Learn from all the other crises that are happening around us. Very often, morale, trust, everything's kind of shaken up. Sometimes internal, there are still questions going on. You said this, but what is happening? Have you put the system in place? Is it really safe the way you're talking about it? Recognize those and have a full plan to cover it up. I'll give you a totally crazy example. I go back to COVID again, but we had a bunch of insights that came in that people post-COVID were still not ready to travel. They were scared of coming back to fly. And I remember we did a whole campaign around it's time to reconnect, building on little things that people were missing about travel. Right? People were talking revenge travel, but nobody was coming back. Even now, given everything that has happened, we have seen a drop in passenger numbers slightly. And one of the conversations we're all having is how do we just rebuild confidence in it? And that rebuild confidence is not just the problem of a particular airline or anybody. It is all our problem. We were part of the industry. So to take ownership like that and rebuild wherever you can, I think that's important. And of course, this is the one I was talking about. Oh, this is wonderful. No framework will be found. Nothing will be remembered. But this as a habit is the most important, and which is what I guess this team is all about. They make us do it regularly, and I have to say, I've now been here over 5 years, lived through several of the exercises, and it's invaluable to do that preparation, to build a plan, do what if, find gaps in that plan, and you will, it's not like you won't, and then train, overtrain. What happens when you train? Anybody? Any guess? Muscle memory. One more thing happens. Tell me what you
Consistency.
think happens. Consistency. One more. Little part of that consistency.
Confidence. Awareness.
I'm going for one thing particularly.
Confidence. Awareness, precision.
It's the same as when you do a dry run before an event. You are not doing something for the first time. When I read something for the first time, I will fumble a little bit because I've read it for the first time. Just the nature. I don't know what is coming. But if I have practiced adequately, I come across far more confident. Right? I am much more comfortable and confident in what I'm about to say. That is why practice dry runs exercises are extremely important. Keep that in mind. So therefore, even if you've written a statement, read it twice before you've written it. Writing is one. Going and standing in front of the press and reading the statement, very different. Right? So read. Read in a room. It's something we do as part of the exercise, mock press, everything. But it helps because you tell where you stutter, what happens, where does your confidence shake slightly. And pre-write. It's not so difficult. Right? Something can come up which you won't anticipate. But if you have a bunch of things you can already pick from, it's easier. Goes faster in terms of doing that. And finally, of course, test as many times as possible necessary. Right? Okay. So, finally, facts will inform. Stories will touch the heart a little bit. You've got to go beyond information, especially in today's world, because people are sitting in judgment all the time. Much worse, I think. God bless anybody who handles a crisis today. It is absolutely crazy. It is totally crazy. Because there are 100 people talking to you. The right narrative will give you trust. And if you tell the story right, you'll just help lead people through the difficult time. It is a difficult time. So just help lead people through it. And I will end with one of the last things. But people will not remember what you say. People will not remember what you do. They will always remember how you made them feel. That is all they will remember. So that is really why you need to tell the story right. Thank you. like later days things went wrong with it. So look at some of these. Look at what's been happening around us. Look at the Maggie case. That India's recently happened. Pick it up. But learn. Yeah? Okay. I'm done.
I don't have a specific question as such, but just wanted to share something after listening to you. After this recent unfortunate incident which happened, there were very few airports which came forward and said something about it. And I saw Bangalore airport putting a post, and it was black and white. And by reading, you could feel the way airport is feeling. And I felt really, nice that we are very concerned about it and we presented our concern. And I was expecting from some other airport, but which was not there. Just wanted to highlight, but this is something a take home for most of us.
They came a couple of hours later or the next morning. They all came.
Yeah.
They all came in the next morning.
Okay.
They all followed the black and white.
Good.
So I must say, even that was a debate. So when I say that you have to think and you have to keep your head around you, even that was a debate. When we put out an advisory, normally we do black and we use yellow because yellow is the color of an advisory. But we said because of what happened, not a good idea to use yellow. So then we literally went black background, and then we said no, let's go white. There is a seriousness to it. We want to show a certain amount of emotion, and therefore, so those little choices, I'm glad you noticed, make a huge difference at that time. To have your head around you.
And you also added that flavor of emotion, empathy. In your experience, does this add up to people coming back? For example, you need passengers to come back.
They did come back. They did come back. But it's got to be, again, the most important thing is timing. You do it too early, people will say you're very insensitive. Why are you not able to understand? And that is the trickiest decision to take. What is the right time? And when do you start? So even we want to do a little bit of rebuilding now. But we've all decided, so I can share that, we've all decided amongst us that for 1 month, we're not going to do anything at all related to passenger travel, any of that. It's just in recognition of the magnitude of what's happened. We've put all our brand launches on hold. We've put a bunch of things on hold. We didn't have to, but it's just a decision that we all collectively, because it's in the industry. It could have been us. It could be anyone. Right? So timing is key. If you get it wrong, then it's really bad saying you expect people to forget so. And so therefore you also got to give people time to accept, to grieve, to be okay, and only then. So time to reconnect was later that year, much later that year, when we started coming back.
India is a country which has multi-cultures, what impact does it have to specifically use a particular country in such kind of scenario? So you have to be very careful on that particular point.
You have to, so for example, when we put it out, we did culture. You have to go regional. You have to understand the country in which you're operating and even the words you use and what you say and don't say and how simple you keep. So you have to do that wherever you are. Wherever you are.
Yeah, you mentioned about the decision is very important. Individual decision because sometimes it has to be individual decision, immediate decision to be taken.
Absolutely.
So should we wait for the seniors to come back and then they will have a immediate decision? There will be a lot of dilemma in that.
One rule in a crisis. Okay? If you think of something, speak out. Doesn't matter whether you are part of that call tree, whether you are part of the crisis team. All of us know who our crisis team is. Right? Speak up. Just pick up the phone. Put it into their ear that this is something I'm thinking. They may not have thought about it. So I think one rule as people who are part of an organization, if you think of something, do not think hierarchy, do not think anything. Let the other person know. Somebody may say, hey, thank you, I already have it. Or may say, oh my God, I didn't think about it. But you will hate yourself forever if you realize, shit, I thought of it, but I didn't speak up. That is the most. Because in a crisis, there are no roles. There is no hierarchy.
In short, like you, what Shalini is saying, it should not be an autocratic decision, a decision by consensus.
If you feel it, say. So I had a launch that I had to do next week. I took it up in our leadership meeting last Wednesday, saying, is everybody comfortable? Or should I hold? Collective decision, hold. So we took a decision together. But I brought it up instead of going ahead or waiting for somebody to tell me not to do it. So if you feel something, bring it up. To whoever you know is part of the crisis team, or big boss, whoever, it doesn't matter. In a crisis, hierarchy irrelevant.
During COVID, we had this situation where 2 vaccines was there, and people started asking which vaccine is better to take it. So they wanted our advice as seniors to which one to. Even we were not so much qualified to tell that this is what is the right to do.
So we were asked that question. I think we took a neutral step. We took a neutral step. I remember being asked that question. We took a neutral step. But just collectively make sure. But don't wait to be told is all I will say in a crisis. It's all hands on deck.
Thank you everyone. Thank you, Ms. Shalini. She just made marketing resilient sound cooler than launching an iPhone, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to dive into someone truly dynamic. She is from Vodafone Intelligent Solutions. And yes, she's every bit as intelligent as the name suggests. When it comes to business continuity, she doesn't talk the talk. She analyzes, strategizes, optimizes, all while probably getting better network coverage than all of us. Whether it's managing risk or unlocking digital magic, she's here to show us that smart solution doesn't need drama. It just needs a bit of vision and a lot of data. Please put your hands together for a brilliant, bold and always switched on Ms. Harshali.
I would just like to comment here that though it's Vodafone Intelligent Solutions, we do not take care of the call centers, so we are not linked to it. Before people start pondering with questions around the network for that. So I'll just introduce myself. Myself, Harshali Balel. I have been working with Voice for since last 7 years. I'm managing the business resilience and crisis management for India, Spain, Turkey, and Europe, the Western Europe part. So just to give you a short background about myself, I have been managing business continuity and crisis management since the last 15 years. But my overall experience is of 20 years, wherein I have diverse experience in operations, people management, project management, and so on. So, talking about today's session, I think redefining resilience, the theme itself is very important. I think even we had seen whatever discussion has happened, like looking at the various ways how business continuity was handled initially. We used to call it business continuity a few years back, but now it's termed as business resilience. So we need to understand the difference between business continuity and business resilience. So if anyone of you can let me know or is aware of what's the basic difference between business continuity and business resilience. Why is it termed as business resilience now? Any thoughts? Any points you can share?
Resilience is going back to keep right. I'm the one edging over here to say anything like you being quiet. Sorry, my friend.
Just give it a try.
It could be whatever that you have. So,
Yeah.
Like the storytelling?
Like,
Story.
what comes to your mind?
Whatever comes to mind.
Okay, Noel. So business continuity is basically where we have our processes, technology in place to ensure that we have continuity in operations and sustain our operations. However, business resilience is having a proactive approach wherein we are vigilant about what can happen. We should be able to respond, recover, and also ensure that we do not have any impact. It could be our brand, it could be our operations, or it could be our people. So that's the basic difference between business continuity and business resilience. So we'll be covering as to the understanding the resilience of the airport, integrating business management, ensuring business continuity, innovative approaches to airport operations, and future-proofing airports. Now I understand that you all are experts in the aviation industry, but I would like to add in what happens in the service industry or how they differ. I think that will be more value add to your knowledge. So when we are talking about resilience, definitely in any type of industry we like to ensure that there are no disruptions. If at all there are, we need to have our continuity plans, we need to have our backup plans, and ensure there is minimal or no impact on our operations as well as our employee, people, and even our infrastructure picture. So if I have to relate this with the service industry, we basically look at resilience when we try to cover three important aspects, that is people, technology, as well as the premises, because employees are our greatest assets. So people safety is at any given point of time, it's given the high importance. Then comes the infrastructure, because definitely at times incidents can happen while people are in office, at times it might happen while we are not in office, but we do have critical infrastructure in office like our servers, which can impact our operations. And lastly, we're talking about adaptability, where we should be able to take care of our employees, the needs, growing needs. Because specifically in the aviation industry, we're talking about the needs of the passengers, the growing needs of the passengers. Importance of resilience, I think it's really very important. Now I'll not talk from the aviation industry, but I'll talk specifically about the service industry. We do take utmost care to have minimum disruptions in case of any incident or any event that happens. It could be any type of disaster, it could be due to a natural disaster or man-made disaster. We do have our continuity plans in place. So we have a very, at Voice, if I have to speak specifically at Voice, we are having a very strategic approach, as well as also even the leadership believes in having resilience. And they also ensure that every year we are updating our business continuity plans. As soon as there is any changes in the organization structure, we will refer our business impact analysis. I'm sure we all are aware of what is business impact analysis. We ensure that whatever structural changes are there, in case there are any changes in the recovery strategy, those has to be updated on a timely basis, and it also has to be ensured that the same has to be cascaded further. It is also being shared with the partners, because Vodafone, we are having partners in different globals across the globes. So talking about the voice services, we are currently serving from 28 countries and 10 different locations, precisely talking about India, Egypt, Spain, Turkey, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, UK and Germany. So UK and Germany are currently new. We are just establishing these centers. But however, while we talk about the other centers, we ensure that we will have some continuity plans to have minimum disruption on our operations. Ensuring employee safety, as I mentioned, during any sort of crisis, our first priority or any point of discussion is that are our employees impacted? Are our employees affected? If yes, what should be the, how should we encourage them, or how should we encourage them to ensure that there are no operational disruptions, or what support can be provided as an organization to ensure that they and their families are safe. While we talk about maintaining the operational efficiencies, so all the utmost care has been taken. So what approach we follow is we have dedicated business continuity spots identified in each of the service lines. So these spots will be helping us to drive the business continuity program across voice. And in case of any such incidents, let me give you an example of the Operation Sindoor which had happened. Right, there was no immediate impact, honestly, right? But definitely we had partners, or we call them, we term them as local markets. So we had local markets reaching out to us as to understanding. They were seeing the news and they were in a situation now. What will happen to our operations? They might get impacted. People will not be available and so on. So we ensure that we are sharing the right information with our partners. So we do have a process in place. Ma'am just was talking about the crisis management plan, right? So we do have a crisis management plan. We follow the crisis management plan. We have a dedicated crisis management team as well, which takes care of any sort of crisis. It could be a man-made crisis, natural disaster, or any sort of crisis. So in case of any crisis happening, we ensure that we are assembling, we take joint decision, and as ma'am rightly mentioned, if in case anyone has any suggestions, these need to be discussed and a joint decision has to be taken by the crisis management team before that gets implemented. So that will help to ensure that we are taking care of people's safety, minimizing the disruption on operation. In case there are any challenges which is faced by any of the business verticals, we ensure that that is brought to the table, it's informed to the crisis management team. We will invoke the recovery strategies in case, in a worst case situation where we really think that our business is getting impacted. Protecting reputation, I think yes, this plays a very important role because brand definitely matters a lot. So how do we take care of this, not just during the crisis? I think this impact assessment has to be done before, not when the crisis happens. So while we are doing the business impact analysis, we are also doing an impact assessment. So in the impact assessment, we have various categories. So it's like operational, financial, brand, and legal. So these are the major categories where we are doing the business impact assessment. And while this assessment is done, we are ensuring that if in case any of the business verticals are having impact, it could be a financial one or a brand impact, that's being taken care of when any incidents are happening, similar incidents are happening. Support local and rural economies. I think this is something which each of the organizations, though we don't belong to the aviation industry, we are supposed to support in terms of global economies. So while I talk about resilience for service line industry, I think it plays a very important role since we are providing services to various markets, and we always have to ensure that there are the business is up and running. It also happens at times we have small technical incidents. We term it as P1, P2, P3 incidents. P1 is of high critical where major of the business lines are getting impacted. So in that case, also we ensure that teams are kept appraised. In a very worst case situation, if we have to inform the partners, we have an approach wherein it's not the service lines who are sending individual communication, because it gives a very wrong representation about voice as a company. In that case, we have a dedicated crisis management and a crisis communication plan as well in place, wherein we have defined that in case of any sort of incidents, what should be done. So while I talk about crisis communication, I think it plays a very important role because the message, what we deliver, really matters a lot because you never know how it is perceived by the other end. And especially when it comes to partners or local markets, we have to be very careful. So we have a process defined that in case of any communication that has to be sent to the partners, it has to be drafted by the BCAW with whatever inputs we have is available with us. It has to be vetted further by the HR team and then further by the center head as well. The reason being because this is being shared with the partners. So we want to ensure that all these three layers of filtration happens and then it is shared with the partners. And this is the way how we are managing the communication. And even in case of any employees which has to be rolled out to all employees, we do have a process wherein we will ensure that this is again vetting through all these three layers so that since it's an all-wise communication which is going to get rolled out, hence we need to ensure that all the information which is being shared in the communication is there in place. At times, depending on the nature of the incident, we also take the call if we have to involve any other stakeholders by drafting the communications. So like example, if it's a flood situation, definitely I have to coordinate with my property team because we are providing transportation to our employees. I have to understand the ground level reality. I have to get in touch with my physical security team because these people are there, we work in a hybrid mode. Whereas these enabling functions are there in the office, on ground, 24/7. They give us the live updates, real updates, and that helps us to cascade or prepare the draft and then cascade the information further. So this is how communication plays an important role. I mean, touch wood, till now we never had any incident where we were in trouble. Maybe because of the structured approach, what we have may be related to crisis management or crisis communication. Any questions so far? Yeah.
So you mean to say that whatever your communication you're making on the phone, you'll be asking, you'll be taking other teams as well, will be
only the relevant stakeholders. Only the relevant stakeholders. Now let's take example of it's a flood situation. I just mentioned flood situation. So definitely, property plays an important role to give me a background as to what is the ground level situation. Is the water levels high only in the low-lying areas? Because see, in the communication what we're going to share, it's a guideline what we're maintaining to our employees, right? So
here what we understand when you are having a communication, is it the communication is an alert kind of thing for
it's an alert. It's an alert it's an alert along with certain guidelines. See, like the same situation, it's a flood situation and we want our employees to work from here. Definitely it can be a mass communication. You either send a message or an email. But emails is generally which employees will not read that easily. Yeah? This is an area where I think most of them are facing issues and we have to accept the fact. So we try to reach out to our employees in all the possible ways, and this is how what we do is we will take the feedback or necessary inputs from the relevant stakeholders, but not all.
So for us the challenge is like if we have a crisis in whatever field, so we don't take the input for populating a message. So we take input how to curb that.
Correct. So what you're talking about is a mass communication. If I'm not wrong. Yeah. So mass communication definitely will roll it out. There we don't need any any stakeholders to intervene or any inputs from them. But this is a communication which we are sending over emails. In that case, we definitely ensure that the communication is going the right way. So depending on the situation, we'll be providing guidelines to the employees, whether they should be working from home or in case they need any support, who should be the point of contact and so on. Challenges faced by airports, I think these are not the challenges faced just by the aviation industry. These are globally faced by all of the organizations, I might say. Supply chain issues, yes, while we talk about supply chain specifically to service industry, we face issues with assets. Assets play a very important role. If we are not able to deliver assets to our new joiners, especially on time, and the ones who are especially critical resources, then it can hamper the business. It's not just the assets, there are even other follow-up things which can affect the business. Geopolitical instability, yes, I think this is the upcoming threat to all the organizations. We have recently been seeing various incidents which are happening around. Threats like cyber security and bomb. I think bomb threats is very common for the aviation industry. We do have faced it. I mean, I can share one experience with you from my early organization. I was working with Principal Global Services, which is based out in Magarpatta in Pune. And it's a multi-tenant building wherein we had almost 8 tenants. And there was I would not name the organization. In that organization, there was an employee who was frustrated, was not getting leaves, and that person just wrote a chit and had kept it in the washroom, stating there's a bomb placed in the office. Now, definitely, looking at such messages, no one will like to take risk. The entire building was evacuated. We were there outside for 3 hours, following the entire process of calling the bomb squad. Just imagine the amount of disruption that had happened that day. Yeah, it was summers. We are standing out in the sun. 3 hours, just the has a it's a 401k pension plan. So it was a financial impact for us because it was a peak hours. So this is the amount of threat that can cause to any companies. Recent one which I can think of in Europe, there was few months back, there was almost 200 plus schools which received the bomb threat information. Now, how will that affect us being a organization? Definitely our employees, their kids going to schools, and we had to permit them, taking half days and ensuring getting their kids back from the school. So, in any ways, it is impacting our operations, right? Non-availability of people, basically. So, these are certain examples in which I can say that small things can definitely impact your operations, but in such cases, we also have to ensure that whether we really have to follow the entire process. Now, in the example which I mentioned about the phone thread, here it was important, right? Because the company really didn't know whether it was a fake one, and they had to follow the entire process. So at times it would depend on the criticality of that incident, whether we should really follow the process or the protocol which is required to manage that particular incident. Vulnerabilities to climate change, I think, is becoming very common in India, especially cities like Bangalore, Pune, floods every year. And I think we have visitors coming and they have been asking us, why is it only India facing so many things? May it be bomb threats, and we have riots, all impacting our operations. And at times, it is very embarrassing for us because, especially in the Bangalore office, where our office is in Outer Ring Road, and most of the times, especially in the rainy season, it's flooded. So we are really in a very bad situation, and we are helpless. But I think post-COVID, now since we are working in hybrid mode, most of the companies are working in hybrid mode. So I think here these climate changes will give a bit relaxation because people can still work from home. There was a time pre-COVID where we had certain services, those were very critical, which had a dependency on the office infrastructure. And while we were going to the COVID situation, I think it took us almost 2 to 3 weeks to ensure that we are getting all the relevant approvals, because these were services basically. And the recovery time objective for them was just 4 hours, between 4 to 24 hours. These were very critical services, so it was important for us to ensure that we are giving them all those necessary infrastructure in their houses, as well as, if we talk about from compliance perspective, there were certain norms from the DOT as well to ensure if you are providing them work from home or facility, we also had to meet the compliance of the DOT. So I think post-COVID now, everything has settled down and everyone can successfully work from home, even especially the services processes which we have, even they can work successfully. Labor shortage, I think this is a universal problem, especially in the corporate sector. You will find due to cost constraints, we are not able to hire more people, and we have to sustain with whatever employees we have or teams what we have. Increasing passenger volume, so this was specifically related to your need. Evolving regulatory changes, yes, there are a lot of regulatory changes, and we need to ensure we are abiding with those, because any non-compliance can lead to further complexity, and hence we need to ensure whatever regulatory changes are there. Like I mentioned about the DOT, this was a new one during COVID phase, wherein we were supposed to share the details. We had to provide details of every employee, their address, from where they're staying, because here even data privacy comes into picture, because they're working on some critical information of the partners or customers, where they are having their contact numbers, they are having their bank details, and so on. So such regulations, or any new upcoming regulatory requirements, any organization will have to ensure that we are meeting them. Any questions so far? Integrating risk management, I think this plays a very important role. We just spoke about, while we talk about risk, there are different types of risk. It could be operational, financial, reputational, environmental, and legal risk. I'm not sure how is the business impact analysis or your risk assessment being done, but to share how it works in the service industry. While we are doing the risk assessment, we ensure that we are capturing the risk, and in case any of the threat which can have either of these impacts. Okay, so while I talk about risk, in our organization we have two types of risk what we are capturing. One is at an enterprise level. While we are doing the enterprise level risk registers, so every service line or a business, or you can say in your terminology, departments, every department will have its own enterprise level risk assessment, where they are capturing all these type of risks in case they have any operational risk, or in case they have any reputational risk or financial risk. Especially processes dealing into finance will have financial risk. And operational risk could be any single point of failures where they do not have any backup plans in place. So that has to be, we need to ensure that such type of risks are updated in the enterprise level risk register. The other type of risk assessment what I'm talking about is a part of our business impact analysis. So our business impact analysis consists of the activity details, the nature of the activities what you will have. The second is the impact assessment, and the third one is this risk assessment. Now this risk assessment contains risk only related to operations, which can impact your operations, which can have an impact on your business. Okay? Now, just updating risk doesn't help. It has to be cascaded further. It has to be reviewed further. We need to inform that the leadership team is aware in case of it's a very high level risk. It needs to be made. The leadership team needs to be made aware of this risk. We also need to ensure that we have certain. While we're doing the risk assessment, we need to capture who are the owners, what is the mitigation plan, which if we have, it could be an interim mitigation plan. Teams are still working to have a permanent solution. It's still fine. And a closure date as well. These are the important things which any risk assessment should have. Else, the risk assessment is of no use because teams will just keep on updating it year on year. Yeah, there will be no tracking done at all as to what's the current status. Are we still living with this risk? Has this been mitigated? Is there any new mitigation plan and so on? And hence, while you update the risk, we also need to ensure it's further shared with the leadership team in case you see any high risk. Now, what we generally do is, in case we come across any risk which can have impact on our operations or brand especially, we have a quarterly meeting with a senior leadership team which we call it as the risk and compliance team. So we highlight such risk which needs to be highlighted and addressed by the leadership team in case they have any inputs which can help us to mitigate the risk. And hence, during these quarterly conducts, we ensure that we are highlighting these risks. It could be from the operation side, it could be from the support functions and so on. Risk assessment methodologies. I think there are different type of risk methods which can be followed. A qualitative one where we are talking only about the impact and the likelihood. Quantitative assessment where we are talking about statistical data where we generally also have a category where we are trying to check whether the risk or that specific threat has happened in last 1 to 3 years or between 3 to 7 years. That can help us to identify the likelihood. It can help us to arrive at the exact likelihood as well. Risk registers, which I just spoke about, wherein we are also maintaining the enterprise level risk registers, and scenario analysis. Now, this is something new which I would like to share with specifically we at Voice and Ages. We are also conducting a site assessment risk. So what we are doing is the various sites what we are having in different locations, not just in India, even globally. We are performing a site risk assessment. This is done specifically, or the responsibility lies with the physical security team. However, inputs are taken from all the relevant stakeholders, like the property team, the finance team. The BCM team also plays a very important role because here what we are doing is we are listing all the common threats depending on that specific site. Considering that threat, what is the likelihood what could be the impact, potential impact in case we have that specific threat happening, and what are the mitigation plans in place. That is something which we are updating in the site risk level assessment. This is an annual activity what we are conducting. We review this every year. In case of, let me give you an example now. We had the floods in Bangalore a few years back. Until then, we never had Bangalore for flood, especially we had mentioned it as in a low category. But as soon as we had the Bangalore floods, because our office was closed for 2 days, and we had servers in the basement, and we were not able to operate for 2 days, and that's the reason why we took a conscious call. Now we need to refer to our risk registers. So we went back, we made the changes immediately. We ensured that we are reviewing this with the relevant stakeholders, as I mentioned, property team, the physical security team, and the HR team as well. And then we took the approvals as well, wherein all the teams were informed that now we have made changes in our risk registers. So this is one type of assessment which we are doing on an annual basis, and this is over and above the different risk assessments which I just spoke as a part of the BIA, and as well as the enterprise level risk registers.
Is there anything you do beyond annual, as in more frequently, or is it all annual?
So PIs is done on annual basis. There also we are capturing the risk assessment. However, the regular one is done by the respective service line, because as I mentioned, every quarterly they are having their risk assessment. So on quarterly basis, they are having.
This is unfortunately as much for our teams as well. Given everything that is going on around us, is there a case to do it more often? Because the world seems to be
especially with this geopolitical changes, I think we should, with the current situation, we should be reviewing them at least on monthly basis. This is something which is suggested, and though not formally, we do have.
It may not be very elaborate.
We do have SAT discussions wherein at times we also receive, like especially with the Operation Sindoor, as I mentioned, we started receiving emails. We started our business continuity SPOC started receiving. During their various discussions, started asking what's the situation there. Do we all foresee any challenges in meeting our SLAs and all those stuff? So these things happen, and I think even during those cases, the leadership team plays a very important role here, because cascading that information at the right time is important. Just delay here and there will definitely is not going to help. And in today's world, nothing can be, everything is there in the news. So even if you try to, firstly, we are not going to manipulate anything. We are definitely going to give them a true picture. We need to acknowledge, yes, this is the situation in India now. So that is what we have been doing, and we also give them how do we give them the confidences, especially in such situations. Now, looking at the operations in Sindoor, we also have this Israel war which is going on, where we have Egypt. So Egypt do have a threat. So here, in this case, the confidence level what we give to our stakeholders is by telling them, this is the resilience what we have as on date. So we do follow a format where we give them a high-level summary, wherein we tell them that today, as on date, there are these many services operating from so many locations, out of which these many services are having resiliency within country, outside country, over and above what are the recovery strategies that we have. So here, while I'm talking about recovery strategies, we have built in that pattern of cross-country resiliency also. I think that is the thing which has helped us to sustain to maybe COVID or any certain incidents which has happened. And we also follow a practice that while we're doing our business impact analysis everywhere, it's been firstly reviewed by the internal service line leads, then by the service line heads. Post that, we prepare a summary and we are presenting it to the heads of that specific department, letting them know that this is the resiliency for you. That helps them understand that is there any gap, do they really need to work on more strategies, recovery strategies. And from the BCM team, we support that how can they build that. Definitely, building recovery strategies is not an easy task, especially outside country. Within country, it is still fine, you can hire certain resources, but especially when it is outside country, there's a cost implications. There are also regulatory especially while they are working across globes. So there are multiple things, but we give them as a suggestion that you all can build resiliency across countries as well. And these considerations, whatever we are providing them, I think these are being implemented. We have seen that, especially when you're letting the leadership team know, or when you go to them with certain incidents that this can impact this way, and by building resilience, this is how it is going to help you. It does help. So wherever feasible, they will develop those recovery strategies. If not, then they will continue with whatever is going on.
Just to put across this particular point, cross-country resilience. Now, given the geopolitical situation a few days back, where there was a war, and then whichever country is in war, they would definitely like to bomb the communication network, because it has a psychological impact on the people there. It has a leadership pressure on the leadership. So, in such situation, if the centers which is dealing with internet as well as mobile network, if they are down, then how do you deal with it? And so, I'm not talking specific about your company, in general as an industry.
I'll give you a live example.
Please.
Now in Spain, a few months back, if anyone is aware, we had a global power outage in Spain. Yeah, where this was a similar situation which you are talking about, where there was no connectivity, and we were in really bad situation because I'm managing Spain from here remotely. However, if I don't get the local support, how am I going to coordinate with the teams? But thankfully, whatever network was not available, but how resiliency works in voice, I'll tell you. What we have done is, especially for our critical members, when I'm saying critical, it is the crisis management team members and our critical resources or our business continuity squads. We have given them or issued them alternate means of communication, which is SIM cards of different countries. Okay? So this is something which we have built in globally. This helps us during such situation, but it will not help in the long run, because if there's no power and if the mobile is not charged, it might not help you. But at least interim period, it will help you to cascade further information, to send certain important messages. Another thing what we have done is satellite phones. So most of our voice centers, in India we are having 3 satellite phones. Definitely we cannot afford per person. We did that in Europe, but it's a very costly affair. And this is really helping us, How this is helping us? Definitely we are not going to communicate with our local people, but it will at least help you to inform people sitting across Europe, informing them that we will not be able to perform because so and so reason. So it helps.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and apart from this, we have also mentioned a clause or a point, I can say, in our business continuity plans. So we have something mentioned as limitations, where we will be limitless, because we have to give that assurance or that awareness to our partners or customers also, in what all cases we will not be able to perform. So our minimum business continuity objective at voice is 30%. We ensure or we give them a commitment that at any given point of time, we will ensure 30% of employees are available. This is a commitment what we are giving. But when will we not able to meet that MBCO is when. So we have certain scenarios which we have listed there. One of which I can remember is the power cuts, fiber cuts, sorry, not power cuts. Any incident, any extreme crisis situation, the one which we war situations, these are certain scenarios which we have defined in our business continuity plans. And while we are conducting awareness sessions with our leadership team, we are reiterating on these points. While we are creating, so what we do is, once we are done with the business impact analysis, we create a short summary. Okay, we just sum it up, because especially leaders will not have time to read those 7-8 slides also. So what we do is we just sum it up for them in one slide, and we ensure that we are reiterating on this. So one good example which I can share is during COVID, we faced people loss issue, because either the employees affected or the extended families are affected, due to which employees are not available for work. In that case, we realize as a people loss, and we really need to do something. We need to build in something in our business continuity plans, because it is going to hit us in long run. Because definitely we saw that it went for a longer time. So what we did is we amended our business continuity plan, wherein we mentioned or defined certain slabs. So in case of between 10 to 30% people are not available, the rest 70% will carry on the work. 70 to 50%, then it will be the rest 50%. Only if 50% people are available, then the management or the SLTs will decide which critical task should be monitored or delivered during that time. So this is something which we introduced in our business continuity plan. And now during COVID, we had just mentioned it during COVID, but now we have changed it to any crisis, extreme crisis situation, because we really don't know what can happen anytime.
Good, thank you.
There are also various tools available in the market. I'm not sure if you guys are using any tools. There are tools, end-to-end tools taking care of risk assessment as well. I can name few of them like Fusion, OneTrust. OneTrust is used for data privacy as well as risk assessment. Then we have Risk Connect. So these are a few of the known tools which are used in the market. This will help us to avoid the manual work. Especially what happens is when we are doing manual risk assessments, or like, let me give you an example. If you are having your BI in your Excel sheets, you have to send it or remind it manually to people. So the tool will help you for entire automated process. Only manual intervention here is to update the risk and whatever the risk mitigation plan is. Once you update the details, it's an automated task. It will give auto reminders, auto approvals, and so on. And I think the tool will definitely help us to keep a track or an inventory as well. And given, in case you feel that the access should be given to the SLTs at any given point of time, if they want to see what's the first 5 risk, high top risk at any given point of time for my organization, they can just refer the tool and they get the risk as well as whatever the mitigation plans are in place. I think I'll just skip this, but I would like to touch upon this point, emergency preparedness plans. I think this plays an important role, but having plans will not always help. I'll tell you why. At times your plan will not cover all the important things which are required. I'll be sharing it in my case study. This is relating to the Spain flood. So I'll be sharing why I'm talking about why at times the plans will not run exactly as to what process we have mentioned here. Okay, so we all know the importance of business continuity, right? We all are contributing to it in some or the other way.
Yes.
Regular updates and testing. So are we performing the testing? And what's the frequency?
At the airport, at least every quarter we have some or the other exercise.
Okay, like
Poultry is just one component. What we try, there are 2-3 things we doing. One is a full-fledged exercise which we had just few days back. It was an aircraft accident on South Runway.
It's a mock exercise.
Mock exercise. So everything was tested in that. But apart from that, we have around 60, as Vinod would tell you, like we have 67 different teams which are working on at their end on smaller exercises where they do call tree testing and other things. But apart from that, we had a corporate level exercises also, one at least a quarter.
So in a service industry, basically what test we follow is the call tree. Definitely, I think this is very important. Especially we saw this incident of power outage where we had to reach out to our people, and having automated tools in place will help. But trust me, as on date, I should say that Voice is not having any single tool in place which can cater to all the 30,000 strength what we have in the various geos from where we are operating at this. Every geo is following their own mechanism of communication, and that's the biggest challenge where I'm working right now. I'm working or exploring certain tool which can help me cater all these various geographies. But what we do is we ensure that the call tree is updated by the business units on quarterly basis. Monthly becomes too much. I mean, though we have mentioned in our processes monthly, but the SPOCs here in our teams, they are doing an over and above job, and it's beyond their BAU work, and there's nothing additional which we have been able to give them, and hence we expect at least quarterly is something which they should be updating. And we are getting the required support from our business continuity stocks in updating all these quality exercises.
Here we have it after, so the content quality judgment. Just not quality, like you said, it's a series of tasks that we do.
Okay.
Table talks, they also prepare the test plans, review it frequently, BIA, RA, BCAW.
Okay.
And also they have an awareness calendar.
Yeah.
That has to be a routine for them. Like we have talked about, we spoke about having that as a muscle memory.
Right.
So it has to be a muscle memory, and we force them to do that. And it's just not about critical departments here. There are about a series of 60 plus departments, including the partners. The partners also go through the triggers. So it becomes a routine and muscle memory sort of thing.
So what we do is, since we are working for our partners or local markets, once we are done with the BIS, we are sharing it with them, because we need to align with them that this is the recovery time objective, these are the recovery strategies. If we are not aligning with them in an actual incident or during the actual incident, they will not be able to understand where they are supposed to support us. We also need to understand what's the bandwidth that they can support, how long they can support us. So all these things should be documented somewhere. Else, it's not going to help. Just having mentioned recovery strategies as cross country is not going to help in a long run. Yeah. And so what we do is we are publishing a BCM calendar every year to our stakeholders, and we follow that religiously because we have a compliance link to it. We have a compliance requirement from the group, Vodafone group. So it's mandatory for us to ensure that we are meeting our KPIs. And we take help of these business continuity stocks which we have identified in each of the service lines to ensure that we are driving this business continuity program. So primarily we are doing our business impact analysis on annual basis, followed by the quality exercise, business continuity plans, then the testing. So what approach we have, it's a different approach we are following since last 2 years. So initially what we used to do is we used to give that leeway to the service line that you all decide the testing strategy for yourselves. But now we have thought that let's go ahead with a different approach. So what we do is we come up with a scenario basis the feedback what we receive, maybe from the service lines or maybe from the service lines or certain incidents which happens during the year. Basis that we decide a scenario, we get this vetted with the BCM steering committee. So we have a committee which is formed, which helps us in vetting or taking decisions or driving this business continuity initiative. So we take approval from them that this is what we have thought. Are you okay? Do you have any inputs? And once we get a go ahead from that, then we are implementing, or our spokes are implementing this business continuity test strategy. Now post they conducting these tests, so we give them ample amount of time because knowing the number of services what they have to test. But trust me, they are religiously doing this testing every year, because of which I think during the COVID we were able to successfully sail through the COVID situation because of the testing which we are doing on annual basis or regular basis, I can say. And I think now since we are working from home, there are hardly any observation because everyone can work from home successfully as well. From office it is definitely. But every year we try to build up some complexity in the situation, and which will help them to identify gaps, if any, in their existing processes. Apart from this, Qualtry and BCP testing goes hand in hand. So Qualtry currently, few of the service lines are doing manually. So we have certain service lines where they have a team of 6,000 plus people. So India itself is contributing count of 15,000 plus in voice. So some teams prefer doing it manually, where they actually get to know whether people are really responding. What happens is with the automated Qualtry is that messages is just delivered, right? And you get it in the report also, message delivered. That actually doesn't meet the purpose, because we really need to know if person is reading the message, responding, or if in case you are asking them to revert back. So that is not happening. So few service lines believe in conducting manually. So we have given them that flexibility. If you want to go ahead with the tool, well, you can go ahead with the tool, but ensure that you are performing the Qualtry at least once a year. So this is something which we are doing, and apart from that, we are also conducting awareness. So awareness for our stakeholders like our employees, employees, crisis management team, and our business continuity SPOC. So what we do, similar to what you are conducting it now, we generally conduct it in the month of May because that's the BCAW week of Business Continuity Awareness Week. So we do call our various guests, but it's not physical, it's virtual most of the times. So any other GOs who had certain incidents, we'll invite those people as guest speakers, share their experience, which will help us, sharing knowledge. So we do that for our SPOCs specifically. For the crisis management team members, we conduct a crisis simulation exercise every year. Okay? Now, this is something which we are doing intentionally because we want to ensure that we are strengthening their crisis management skills. We follow different formats for this crisis management. At times we do in-house, at times we invite external suppliers. We also have a in-house tool which is built for crisis management. So our group has in-house built a crisis management tool. So what they have done is in case of any crisis hitting voice, we need to first ensure that it's been uploaded or it's been updated in this tool so that the relevant stakeholders are aware that there's a crisis happened, any support required will be provided from the group as well as the local teams. Now when I'm talking about the crisis management simulation, recently we had conducted a crisis simulation wherein they were using the AI platforms. I think I intentionally want to share this because it is a very different format which they are using, which really helped us. There was a scenario. You can let them know what type of scenario you want to consider, and then basis there we had formed various groups and inputs from them, and access was given to their portal wherein they were given certain questions and all, and it used to give the automated reports, and finally it concluded as to what are the gaps and how you can improve. So that was a very innovative way, and people did appreciate for that crisis management simulation. And while I talk about employees, for employees it's not possible for us to reach out to 15,000 employees individually, but there are two ways how we ensure that we are creating awareness. Firstly, while the induction session, we are ensuring that we are covering business continuity. Secondly, what we have done is we have created an in-house, I can say a deck, and with the help of a learning and development tool, we have uploaded it in the success factors, and we ensure that all our employees are completing this awareness course every year. Though it's the same, we do try to make changes maybe twice in a year or something. But this content is purely related to employees, a basic one, and we ensure that employees are completing it every year. So how do we track it? We take the help of L&D team to share reports with us. Wherever we feel that the participation is less, we work with those service lines and encourage them to ensure that we increase the participation. So that is how we take care of awareness, in ensuring how we are embedding BCM in our voice culture. Any queries?
Just to add on, whilst I'm reading the title there, developing continuity plans, and to add on to the title itself, it is developing ever-evolving continuity plans. We belong to an industry where nothing is static. Nobody is static.
Exactly.
No equipment is static. No infrastructure is static. Everything is dynamic. And here, although I'm just a newborn to aviation industry a month ago, prior to this I was always with global banking. It's great. It gives me immense pleasure because we're standing by, we're standing by leadership, which doesn't confine itself to say that we have zero tolerance towards, regulatory compliance breaches or so. But we have zero hesitation in going back to the drawing board and redefining the risks and reprioritizing and coming up with ever-evolving continuity plans so as we be in sync in real time. And we don't wait for the D-Day or the Diwali to come back and reconvene. We bring the commitment onto the table, hopefully, because here it is, again, the game of, or the game between the power of intelligence and the power of imagination, right? So here we wouldn't hesitate even imagining something going wrong because, it can lead to a domino effect, not just entity, but impacting the society, the community, the country itself, Sorry from the recent example that we have had. So yeah, we factor all those things, and we embedding BCM culture into the DNA, take in those with those all efforts, reaching out to the last man standing in the row to make sure that the familiarity, awareness, they're equipped with not just with the message but also with the awareness of how to respond back to a situation. Yeah, just want to call out.
I think, yes, I will accept with the fact while you mentioned about the risk. Yeah, I still see there is certain risk of COVID which is still lying in our risk registers, where every year we have to go back and convince them this is no more a risk now, this is a BAU now.
Maybe back to being the risk.
Having effective response strategies, so we spoke about clear communication protocols. I think it's really very important. And just having a plan or protocol is not important. It also needs to be cascaded to the relevant stakeholders. They should be aware of what's the plan or what's the protocol that needs to be followed. Crisis management and emergency plans. We just spoke about crisis management team and the plans also. So we have defined a crisis management plan for each of our locations. Every location has a dedicated crisis management and a crisis communication plan. Now the key highlights of this communication, it's a very exhaustive plan what we have created, but the key highlights are the key contact person, because that is very important. What happens is at times people will not reach out to the right people, and we are updating it, though I say annually, but as and when there is a need, any change in the crisis management team members or any change in the processes, we'll go ahead and update these plans, and we'll ensure that we are also sharing it every year with all the employees, because even they should be aware as to who is the point of contact for me, not my direct manager, but apart from that, in case there is any crisis, whom should I report to? They should be aware of all these basic information. So we ensure that we are rolling out the crisis communication plan every year to all the employees as well. Cybersecurity measures, I think here at Voice, we are taking care of only operational resiliency. Technology resiliency is taken care of by the IT teams, and cyber resilience by the cybersecurity team. However, we ensure there is a handshake between all these three departments, because if we are not aligned, it's not going to help us. In case we have any cyber related issue, definitely BCAW will come into picture, because the operation is going to go on hold. But the primary responsibility here will lie with the cybersecurity team to ensure that they are restoring successfully. Hence, that alignment between the relevant stakeholders is really important. And at times we also tried, while we are conducting the crisis simulation exercise, this time we have thought of a situation where we also included the cybersecurity team. So it was a combined situation of hitting operations as well, or having a situation where we have had a cyber attack, and how can both the teams come together. And we really identified that there were some gaps in our processes, which we made amendments in our plans as well. I think AI, this is something which we have been hearing. So talking about the technology right now, I think many companies are also started adopting the AI technology. Talking about voice, I think we have started using the Copilot. But I personally feel at times too much of use is not relevant, or it's not required at times. Though we say that AI is interacting human intelligence, but most of the things is something where the human has to first feed in, right? If you need a certain information, you first have to input whatever details you want, and then the AI is giving you those details. So definitely there is a myth currently whether AI will replace humans. I personally don't feel so, because definitely we'll see some reduction in jobs, but definitely it will not take away the entire operations, because human intervention is still required. Let me give you an example. Today, if I want a particular risk assessment or certain details about risk assessment, definitely AI will give me that, but it is a generic information which it is giving. It is not something which is relevant to my organization, relevant to what processes what we have. So here we need to understand the difference. It will give you a generic basic guideline which can help you to build on, but definitely it will not give you to exactly whatever is going to match your requirement. So predictive maintenance, I think I like to share some best practices here, and I'm sure even you guys might be having some mechanism in place. So what we have done is we have a tie-up with one of the supplier, especially for sharing advisories in case of any such incidents, risk intelligence in short, because since we're operating globally, it becomes important for us if we could get some heads up as to certain incidents, like we talk about heavy rainfalls in certain situations or any threats happening anywhere. So we have a tie-up, I don't mind sharing the name of the vendor, it's Midcat Advisory Services. They're providing us this artificial intelligence operations, and what we have done is we have created WhatsApp group, different WhatsApp group. We have WhatsApp group for our crisis management team members, we have WhatsApp group for our business continuity spots as well. Now though WhatsApp is not a formal way of communication, yeah. However, at times it really helps, because the easiest mode of communication right now or to reach out to any person is WhatsApp. We have made it very clear that WhatsApp will be used during non-official hours. However, whenever such incidents happens, the first or whenever we get any advisories, we are sharing it in WhatsApp, because mails is something which people did not prefer, and hence we are sharing it on WhatsApp. This helps us to be vigilant in case any action needed from any crisis management team member. So any incident happens, if we are posting any like, let me give an example. We had Palki recently at Palki last week in Pune, where we have most of the roads are closed, and then the transport becomes an issue, then we have to inform employees. So all such information will be posted. It will be even shared with the business continuity spots, so they keep their teams aligned, and that helps us even in a worst case situation. If person is not available on a call, at least on WhatsApp they will respond, they look at the message. In case any action needed from anyone, we can definitely reach out to any of the crisis management team. So this is how currently we the advisory services are helping us to keep the CMTs as well as the business continuity spots appraised. They also help us in case of, let me give an example of this India-Pakistan war situation what we had. So our partners were able to know what can happen in future, or what the future predictions in short. So the current situation, impact and all those. They also help you in preparing customized reports. So these are various facilities that they're providing us, and we are availing those, which helps us in the long run during any sort of incidents. We can skip this because it's related to your this. Climate changes, I think we have got adapted to it now. So this is the example which I was talking about, the artificial intelligence, where we get to know certain predictions well in advance, which can help us to avoid certain incidents. I think having this in our business continuity plan will definitely help us to ensure that we are prepared for any sort of challenges or to face any sort of disruptions. Climate change awareness, I think we are doing it more frequently with all our relevant stakeholders. Technological advancements, we have started adopting, people have started using chatbots, co-pilot as I mentioned. Regulatory changes. So I would like to share one live incident which had happened, which I mentioned about Spain, where we had flood situations in October 2024. So Spain was just in the establishing phase last year, because it is one of the new entity. So Spain and Turkey were the two new entities which were established last year, and we did not had the entire crisis management team which was formed. And I'm managing the Spain crisis and the business resilience from here remotely. Now, how do I manage it? Is because I have some local resources available there, specifically the physical security team. So we have a plan in place in case of any such disruptions, incidents happening. They should be informing the BCAW team. So all of a sudden in the night I receive a call, there's a flood situation, and they receive a message from their local authorities. They receive the message very late, and by that time I think the situation was really bad. Most of the houses were, flooded. People had just reached home from their offices, and what happened is we were not able to reach out to most of our employees because they were busy, managing the situation there. Definitely, we had invoked a call tree. Post we got to know. So as soon as we got to know that there's a flood situation, the very first immediate action was to set up a crisis call. So we set up a crisis call. Now here a good part of what we have in voice is the crisis management team members are again from different geographies. So they were able to make it for the call. So the person heading the Spain center sits in UK. So we were able to connect to her. She was traveling. So we assembled the crisis management team. We got to know what's the ground level situation there. First immediate action was to trigger a call tree to ensure that all our employees are safe. Now, how do we trigger a call tree? Because it's an establishing center, we don't have the automated call tree process or tool in place. Now, there was a situation where we had to take help of our local market, that is Vodafone Spain, wherein they helped us with their tool. But here, definitely, we had to share the list of our employees through which they triggered the call tree. Post that, there was a manual calling after a few hours because we allowed employees to settle down. After a few hours, we triggered a call tree and we were able to reach out maximum people, but there were 5 employees who were missing. We tried to find out who are staying close by, if feasibility where people can actually go and see if they are safe, or if they could have some other alternate means of communication. But these 5 resources were not reachable till the other day. So during such times, what we do is we will be having regular crisis management calls after every 2 hours, generally after every 2 hours, to take a stock of what's the situation there on the ground. So after a few hours, what happened is the network was also down. We were not able to meet the local resources there. We were not able to get as to what's happening there on the ground. So it was the people or the crisis management team from the UK team helped us. They had the database. They took the contact details of the people. These 5 resources who were missing, we tried to reach out them, and they were finally reached the other day. However, now while we talk about here, this is the people aspects where we try to ensure how our people are safe. The second important point is operations getting impacted. Now, how do you ensure that your work is running? We can't expect people to work in such situation, right? Because their house is already flooded, they need some support, and how can we expect them working in such situations? Now here, but we at least need to let them know that your work should be delegated, should be transferred. So in this case, what we did is, while we were having the crisis management call, we took a decision, let's invoke our international BCP, we call it as international BCP. So not necessary that every services can be recovered from outside country. There are few which can be, few which cannot be. So generally, while they are, developing these recovery strategies or establishing these recovery options for them, they will ensure that any critical services, for us the critical services is something which has a RTO between less than 4 hours to less than 24 hours. So all such services should have some recovery strategy either within country or outside country. Now within Spain we have 4 offices, that's in Madrid, Valencia, Barcelona and Malaga. However, certain services couldn't be recovered from the other sites which are available in Spain. They were only could be recovered from other countries. So the CMT took a call that whichever services can be recovered from outside country, let's invoke the international BCPs. So the teams were informed, the work was transferred. But how do we ensure now these 5 resources are reached? So finally the other day we were able to reach out these 5 resources. Now post that we also need to check what is the support which is required by the employees, because there were few employees who had, the houses were damaged. If you would have seen the images, most of the vehicles were damaged, literally vehicles were floating around. can just look at the picture there. That will let you know the intensity of the floods. Yeah. So how do we support the employees now in this case? Definitely, this is nothing which is mentioned in our business continuity plans. What is mentioned is just invoking call tree, yeah, and ensuring that employees are safe. Now, what we did is, as a crisis management team, the team decided that let's extend some help to the employees, where now the personal cars definitely is not getting covered under our insurance. However, we extended a support by giving them some contacts or tie-ups which voice had with the insurance providers. Secondly, for the employees who were not able to stay in their houses because their houses were affected, the company decided that we give them a salary in advance, yeah, provided they reach out to the HR and the HR VPs and their immediate managers. They also allowed them 7 days leave. This is something that we had done proactively. Later on, we identified that one employee was, he was returning back to home. However, the other day also he was not contacted. So this one employee was missing for almost 2 days. And then that was a concern for us because definitely, in such situations when we have a pressure from group, if any impact to the brand, people or infrastructure, we need to inform them being the group, and their involvement is also required. This person was not able to, we were not able to connect the person. The wife started getting worried that, my husband is missing and all those stuff. So finally, the second day, the power was restored, but it took some time because it got, during even the floods, it took some time for the water to settle down, the power to restore, and then to reach out to people. So the physical security team played a very important role here, wherein they tried getting to this employee, and finally the second day night this employee was reachable. This employee went in some of the hotels, got the mobile charge, and then gave a call to his wife firstly that I am safe and there in this hotel. But it was not safe for that employee to reach home during that time. Now, what additional support we provided is the accommodation. So not just for that employee, for other employees as well, those whose house were affected due to the floods, we did provide them accommodation in the hotels for a week's time. And in case of the extension needed, they were supposed to get in touch with their HRVPs and their managers. So this is the sort of support what we had extended them. But as I mentioned, at times your business continuity plans will really not help you. We have to go beyond the way to support our employees or sustain the operations, because during this time I think the employee safety was very important than the operations. And even in this situation, we ensured that we are meeting over and above minimum business continuity objective. So we ensured that the teams who can cover it from Egypt, from India, they were informed and they were trying to cover it during the Spain timings, though we have a difference in the time zone. And this is how we manage the situation, but ensured that our employees are safe, operations are sustained. And I think the crisis management team plays a very important role here, because timely and prompt actions is essential here. Else, you never know if what can go wrong. Cascading messages to employees. Even we were also planning to send an email to employees, but there is no power. How do we send messages? If the laptop is not on, the employee will not be able to receive the message. So the other day we also again triggered a call tree, wherein we gave them certain guidelines as what needs to be done, and so on. So this is how we manage the situation, and this is what I would like to share with you. You have any queries?
Sure.
That's it from my end. Redefining resilience is really required, as our friend rightly mentioned. We really need to go back to our business continuity plans and not just stick to the frequencies what we have. As and when required, we should be able to, update our business continuity plans. Risk management integration, we need to ensure that the risk are integrated with our business continuity plans and with the existing ones, and ensure that the risk is updated on timely basis. Business continuity assurance, I think this is something which is very much required. Embracing innovations, let's adopt the technology which is available to ensure that we are having robust business continuity plan. So I would like to thank the BIL team here for providing me this opportunity and to be a part of the Business Continuity Awareness Week. Really thank you.
Thank you. In fact, something new which I came to my mind was I'm looking after disaster management for the airport.
Okay.
Leave management policy is so important for disaster management. That's what it is. Thank you for that.
Thank you, ma'am. I please request you to stay back. I now request Ms. Shalini Rao and Mr. Anil Kumar to give the token of appreciation. Ma'am, please. As many of you know, we had the big deal, and dare I say, Instagram-worthy unveiling of quick response team jackets on the opening day of Business Continuity Awareness Week. It was glorious. There were jackets, there were selfies. Some people even struck a superhero pose, but they forgot to post it on LinkedIn. But now, it's time for the distribution. Because what's the point of unveiling jackets if we don't hand them over, right? These jackets aren't just warm and good looking. They are badged of honor. They say, I am ready for anything. System crashes, unplanned audits, and possibly occasional zombie drill too. I now request Mr. Anil and Mr. Gupta to hand over the jackets. And so, so to our BCAW board members, Mr. Ananta PR. Up next we have Mr. Tikaram GK. Up next we have Mr. Vijay Mohan. Up next we have Mr. Manjunath C. Last but not the least, we have Mr. Pratap. Thank you. As we officially come to an end, remember this. Resilience isn't just a fancy word in the policy. It's a superpower. It's the quiet hero behind the scene. The reason flight take off on time. System don't collapse during Excel file overload. And panic is kept to minimum when someone says the coffee machine isn't working. Because here at KIAB, we don't just recover. We prepare like pros, perform like champions, and part to the unexpected like it's just another Tuesday. As we glide towards the close of this segment, it's time to hear vote of thanks. Mr. Raghuvan, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Raghuveer. So let me take this opportunity to thank our esteemed speaker who's flown in from Pune. Thank you so much for coming over. Sharing your thoughts on resilience. Love the way you connected your industry to the aviation industry. But bottom line, what I would like to take away from this is any industry has a fantastic framework. We normally play around with it to keep us and the employees and the brand upright. So that's what I would want to come back to. Anil, thank you so much for being our gracious host, having us over and providing the best service. Coming back home, Shah, thank you so much for the wonderful session on crisis communication. I think that's the need of the hour. I think everything we do really well, but during a crisis, we freeze like a rat and we don't know what to do. And I think that is something we need to continue to practice, and that is something we will ensure that the KIAB community will go through and will make you more resilient in such a way that we will ensure that you are able to respond during a crisis and what needs to be done.
Can I
Sure.
share something?
Please.
I know this entire team is there as support for the community. But if at any stage you feel the need for armed support, we're out there.
So, always. Right. So last line that I would probably want to leave this team, I know it's lunchtime, everybody's only hungry and being seated for more than 2 hours is not a good thing. So for me, resilience is, if I'm not changing, I'm accepting. So that is what resilience is for me. There are a lot of few ways of putting it across, but this is what for me. If I'm not changing, I'm accepting. That goes for most of you in the industry as well. So think about it, do the right thing. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon. I think we require all of you to come down for a photo. Before you go down, please sign the boards. Put your signature on. We'll go down quickly, take a photograph. So the faster you finish this, the faster you finish the photograph, the faster you go for lunch.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, sir.